started with a waterfall method, and later on, about 15 years ago, discovered Agile, the Agile methodology. Practice Scrum and extreme programming. I've been involved in the Agile community for the past 10 years. And so these methods really helped me build better software products and that I could be proud of and really enjoy my job as a project manager. But, because there's a but, it was not always ideal, if I may say, and it was not enough. After a few years, despite being Agile within my team, I always struggled with the rigidity of my organization. So I worked in different large organizations for a while, and then this was always one of my major obstacles, dealing with the rest of the organization, dealing with all sorts of problems all day long. Machines not available in time, having to deal with people who do not want to answer your questions, who do not have time, who are not available, having to redo the same task over and over, comply with a million administrative rules and that were imposed upon us. And so after a while, these problems turned my activity, my job, into firefighting. I found myself constantly having to make compromises between building something great, some great software, and complying with the strict rules of bureaucracy in my organization. So I realized I could no longer afford to deal with that if I was to deliver great products in time, in budget, without killing myself and probably everyone around me. So, however, I cannot ignore the organization. So if you're a project manager with an ambitious goal, what do you do? What do you do? Well, that's what I did. For many years, I spent my time and my days fighting with everyone in the organization to make things moving as much as I could, and it worked at times, but it had a huge cost, and that was my health and my enjoyment. After a while, I got old, and I decided to look for better ways to do this. And I did find other ways, but surprisingly enough, I did not find them in IT. And again, you know, I totally love Agile, and this is not an Agile process, if I may say, but it was not enough for me. So I'm really I was really interested in looking for something that could help me work better with the organization. So I found other methods in other industries, and they were not about direct conflict to get what you want, but they were about collaboration. And that was key for me to enjoy my job finally, and also develop great products. And where did I find these methods? I found them in one of them. It was the automotive industry, where product development approaches based on large-scale collaboration had been used for decades. So this is the case notably of Toyota. And their lean engineering method, which I discovered and studied, and it's been used for many years, many decades at Toyota. Here I'm showing you Mr. Takeshi Ushiyamada, who was the project leader of the previous project, and he used this method, including Obeya, which is part of the lean engineering method, to conceive and build the first hybrid vehicle of the 20th century. He put this new and innovative product into the market in 1/3 of the time it normally took in the 80s to deliver a new car. And we know after 20 years this car is still one of the most popular ones in the whole world. So surprisingly enough, I found similar methods in the movie industry. I found out that similar highly collaborative production design method was applied for The Godfather. It was also used or something similar in the luxury industry. So I analyzed all this, and what I realized is this. So for those people, those of you who are Agilists, this will probably ring a bell. People over processes and tools, that's one of the elements of the Agile manifesto that was basically designed, written over 15 years ago, and I was really surprised to find that the focus, the key to sustaining large-scale collaboration was to focus on people. not processes and tools. In other words, not on bureaucracy, basically. And these companies, they really put in all their efforts into providing the right means, giving the right work conditions to people so they could work together efficiently. Okay, they build creative teams, give them autonomy to develop the products of tomorrow. And instead of spending their energy and time ensuring that those same people apply processes and follow rules, which is what a lot of companies I've worked with do and continue to do. Now, what I see is that Agile teams nowadays, and again, and I don't want to generalize, but I see a lot of Agile teams not focus on people as much as they were meant to. And sometimes Scrum has become a process, production process in a toolkit, and is deployed as such. And we tend to forget a little bit about the people aspect. So I went back again and I tried to understand how those industries were doing this. So what is their secret? Well, their secret is intensive collaboration, again, but that means, what does that mean? That means developing end-to-end collaboration within the whole enterprise. So it's funny to talk about this when you're dealing with product development, but this is key to success, and that's what I found out. So what you see in most organizations, even in Agile ones, is that people do interact with each other, one manner or another. However, they don't really collaborate. To me, collaboration is not just submitting reports to stakeholders or getting a buy-in from a distant stakeholder. It's not just having a good relationship with other teams, which have a dependency on you. This is important, and it's all part of the normal day-to-day business life, but it still does not prevent your project from running into a wall. When you find out at the 11th hour that you really need something from another team, that you can't even get it, even though you're good friends with the other team leader, or that you have to bribe the guy in order to get something, that's when you see you were never collaborating to begin with, because in the end, you both have different agendas. So what they mean by intensive collaboration is resolving problems together all the time in a structured manner. And believe it or not, this is not something we're born with. It's something you practice on the field with people every day. So if you want to bring a project to completion without having to fight for everything you need and waste time on bureaucracy, then to me, the only way to do that is to collaborate intensively from the beginning. And the organization will not be an obstacle to your success. So the rest of this talk is to show you how I go about this, how I got inspired by those methods to develop my own Obeya method that I've tested on many projects. And hopefully they will, if I can, put your feet on the path to learning this not so obvious collaboration skill. Okay, so Obeya. Obeya, it is a product development method, and it was first utilized in Japan by Toyota to conceive the Prius, like I said earlier. So this method helped the company put up the first hybrid vehicle in the market in only 2 years, when it took more than 6 at the time. And that gave a pretty competitive edge to Toyota, because it give them a 10-year lead over competition. So that was pretty revolutionary. So Obeya is a Japanese word. It means large room, room like you see on the screen, with lots of visuals and people talking about them. The main objectives of the Obeya are to gather in the same room, a dedicated workroom, all project stakeholders, in order to make them collaborate intensively on very specific subjects throughout the project. So when I say all project stakeholders, I mean all project stakeholders. That means anybody that at one point or another in the life of a project will contribute in one way or another. Support is a stakeholder. Training is a stakeholder. Business management, database, security, compliance, QA, all these people that will have something to do in the project. So the wall I covered with visuals, and these will help contributors manage the project in a highly collaborative manner. So the Obeya, for a little bit of theory, rests on 4 principles. One is visual management. It's a lean technique for identifying, visualizing, making visible very quickly problems and risks. They appear as soon as they occur, so that people can act upon them very quickly. So the second principle is sharing what is in everybody's head, and that helps actually the team make decisions that work for everyone. The third principle is end-to-end collaboration, and this is key to breaking barriers that are typical of silo organizations. And finally, the fourth principle is a visionary and persistent project leader that acts as the big integrator to make it all work. So these are the four principles, and the purpose of the Obeya is to see and understand together four very specific aspects of the project. Customers, first of all, of course, who they are, what do they want, what are their preferences, pain points, and what are we doing to fully satisfy them. The second is what is happening and how we overcome obstacles. So what is happening in the project, the products, the plan. The second is, are we progressing fast enough? And all this should be visible. You know, are we reaching our target? And if not, what are we doing in the process of doing to basically remain on track? And then finally, how we can better work with the rest of the organization to succeed. So any type of problem that I mentioned earlier, what is it that we're doing to improve that, to make things go smoother, more smoothly? Okay, so here is the format of an Obeya. So this is actually what I'm showing you here is a fully functional Obeya. So you see that there are several panels covering different aspects of the project. So you start at the bottom here. So it's a room, by the way, it's a dedicated workroom. You start with the project intent and objectives. You know, it shows you why the project is important. Then the voice of the customer, again, who the customers are and what their preferences are, their pain points. The target products is a visualization of what you're in the process of building. The performance indicators, which acts as your compass for the project. The macro plan, which is a lead time control tool for the whole team. And then a whole wall dedicated to problem solving. And then you see at the bottom here, I'm just showing you that all the production is done locally in with each individual team. It's not done within the Obeya because the Obeya is used just to collaborate. It's a collaborative method. It is not a production method. So you'll see Team A might be using Agile, Team B might be using Pull and Flow, Team C might be using Waterfall. And it's not what's important. What's important is that each team is going to find himself in the Obeya at least once a week to discuss issues and resolve them together. So instead of going around building each panel, I find that it's much more useful to go through those four fundamental questions. And a team who wants to start a project or who started a project and wants to see if they're start applying the Obeya methodology can start with asking those four fundamental questions. Okay, and these questions are: 1, are we working on the right project for the organization? 2, are we developing a useful product? 3, is our product well conceived? And 4, will we be ready in time? And as you're addressing each question, your Obeya will see the light, one panel at a time, and it will make more sense. So let's move to the first question. Are we working on the right project for the organization? And with this first question, what we're trying to figure out is if our project fulfills what the company needs at a given time. This means, is the project aligned with the company strategy? Are the estimated benefits worth the investment? And how do we know that? The problem this question is really addressing is one that many IT projects nowadays are not addressing at all or not well. Yes, I see project teams spending some upfront time thinking about this, trying to answer the question, adding some information to their project charter, but when you scratch the surface a little, you realize that there's no solid business case behind it, no measurement, no justification showing that you did spend the time on the field understanding and measuring the real value for the company. And because a lot of projects bypass this phase, the companies tend to waste their resources on things that do not bring much value, and in the long run can have a negative impact on their position on the market. So now the cause of this is that even though we have a good business case, we don't share the vision with all the contributors, all the stakeholders again, and Why? Because quite often different teams have their own objectives, priorities. They do not understand the importance of a particular project if they're not responsible for it. So what does the Obeya method recommends to attack this problem? Well, it's to develop a strategic, clear, and shared vision of the project. So with the Obeya method, the team will go through a series of steps and use a variety of standards. I'm not going to go through all of them now because it's pretty complicated, but not complicated to use, but there are many and I don't have enough time. But there are some lean tools that I use. In order to answer this question, the team will go through the following steps. They will understand the company's strategy, they will meet with the sponsors one by one, they will measure the impact on the company's success, they will establish the business case, get the collective go from all the sponsors, and eventually go into a room and build the common project vision with all contributing parties. To illustrate this, I'm giving you a quick example. So here's Isabel. Isabel is a project leader. She's got 20 years of experience. She works for a large insurance company. So she has a huge challenge in front of her, and it's to deliver a brand new system that can handle automated social declarations. Okay, so the project is due in 8 months. It's a very complex project because the new system must interface with all the major company systems. The task of coordinating all of these teams and parties and technology seems almost impossible in the available time. But Isabel has the reputation of getting things done. She's a challenger, and she's courageous, and she decides to take on this new challenge. She calls in an Obeya coach and starts deploying her Obeya. So after going through all the steps I described earlier to build her business case and obtaining the go from the sponsor, she gathers every contributor in a room. So yeah, there were about 15 people in the room, and together they build a shared project vision. She started asking them a question. According to you, what is important in this project? What can we absolutely not fail if we want to succeed? And to her surprise, every participant has a different answer. And the slide here shows some of the answers. So it's not that the answers were different, it's that they were complementary in the end. And at the end of the day, they all came up with a shared vision of the projects, strategic objectives, and success criteria for the project so that everybody could start organizing themselves accordingly. So that was for Isabel. The second question the team needs to ask themselves is, are we developing a useful product? What that means really is, are we building a product that addresses a real client problem? And are we developing, or in the process of developing, a product that will delight users? And how do we know that? It's not an easy question to answer at that stage. Sometimes we do everything by the book, even Agile teams. We write stories, we involve the client in the project, the client approves the various releases, and so forth. And when the tool is delivered, we realized, sometimes not even right away, that it does not reflect the reality of users, or not the reality of all users. I remember an Agile team responsible for developing a patient management system for dentist offices. They went through all the right steps, interviewed several dentists, did demos to get their regular feedback, etc. They delivered the tool, the client was happy, the dentists were happy, and yet the system generated many complaints from the users and did not have the expected success. When the project leader decided to go and see, which is a lean technique, by the way, that is observe for hours and days how the tool was used on the field, he realized the big mistake they had made. The real users actually were not the dentists, they were the administrative assistants who had zero medical knowledge and were completely lost in the system. So the system, this example is one among many I've witnessed where the team ends up picking the wrong client or addressing the wrong problem. And in this case, what Obeya proposes is total immersion in the client world before we start the project, of course. And this is usually done as part of the business case. You follow a number of steps. You use, again, a few tools, lean tools that will help you develop a deep understanding of who your customers are, how they work, how they live, what their real preferences are. And regardless of whatever tool you plan on developing, you don't think about your tool at first. For instance, the Toyota engineers who conceived and developed the Prius spent 6 months in the U.S., the United States, living with American people, driving 1,000 cars, competitors' cars, to really get a feel for this before they even started thinking about, you know, planning or writing a line of code. Let's go back to Isabelle. Okay, so she did all these exercises of immersing herself into the client's world. She also used what was called the voice of customer. It's a tool that helped her capture the customer preferences and understand their pain points. Again, after that, she gathered every project contributor in the room and asked everyone who, according to them, their clients were and what the expectations were. And again, everyone had a different opinion of who that was, which in the end is normal and very useful. Everybody had a different vision, and all of them were interesting and useful. After a series of go and sees and exercises, they all agreed on who the clients were, and there were a lot more than we had originally, the team had originally anticipated. So they decided to pay them a visit to get a better grasp their work condition. It took several hours and days of field observations and interviews. They realized many things. For instance, one of the clients, the administrators, who were supposed to handle the rejects from the system, okay, all the data that is not in the right format that you need to deal with and you don't know what to do, then was supposed to be put in a module and handled by the administrators manually. So that was the plan of the team, but the administrators did not see this happening because they did not know enough to be able to handle this. They did not have the knowledge, and plus they were totally overworked with other things. So back to the Obeya room, the team, Isabelle's team, realized that they'd made a mistake, and they decided to change the vision of their future product radically. And they gave themselves one objective, 0 reject, and that changed the dynamic of the project. And thank God they saw that pretty early on. Let's move on to the third question, the third fundamental question that a team needs to ask themselves. Is our product well conceived? Which means, are we conceiving a product that responds perfectly to customer needs, that is cost effective, and that can evolve easily over time? And what we see that it's not often the case, because we end up building products that suffer from design flaws. Teams end up having to deal with technical debt, the projects end up costing more to develop and to maintain, the system is not so easy to use and customers complain. So all this has an obvious financial impact because you have to redo, to rework the tool. But it also has an impact on the company over the long run because they will lack velocity in adapting to changing market conditions, and this is how they will start losing their position on the market. What I've seen is that teams tend to start construction too early, and this is one of the first causes of this problem. Despite having followed every step of the company's project management process, the team is quickly faced with technical issues. Users realize that the application is not usable in their context, or the team realizes that a certain framework is not compatible with a new version of the operating system, and so forth. And ideally, you handle this, or you find that out during development and not after release. So what the Obeya method recommends is to agree on a minimal and coherent solution very early on. That seems like easy enough to do. The objective is really to reduce to the maximum the number of questions that the team is asking themselves about the product design. Okay, so these technical questions are addressed all together, again, with all of the stakeholders, one at a time in the Obeya room. And when I say all of the stakeholders, because even support will have something to say about design. So again, the team goes through a series of steps, use different tools inspired by Toyota Lean's engineering to answer this question. Okay, let's see what Isabelle did with this. Trying to answer the question with her team, she and the team managed to identify very early on and address conflicts between the various systems they had to interface with, and also major technical issues that the architect teams hadn't anticipated. So this was possible because every contributor was present during this exercise. Architects, operations, developers, business analysts, QA, compliance, support, and you name it. Also the product leaders from each interfacing system. That was, again, 15 people in the room, but this can be managed if you have the right facilitating tool. So what they did was start visualizing the product from different angles: data flow, application flow, infrastructure, performance monitoring, you name it. And this visualization brought to the surface many questions, many issues that the team tackled one at a time. They listed each one on the problem-solving board. They started by flagging, adding red post-its on the design, and then adding this to the problem-solving board. They also planned mini R&D workshops, in order to choose the best solution on some trickier issues. Solution that would be not only cost-effective but also scalable, that would reuse existing components as much as possible, that engineers would feel comfortable with, that respond to the voice of customer, and that can be built in a reasonable amount of time. So people would come back a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, depending on the complexity of the problem, present their solution, their business case for the solution, and then they will, the team would choose a solution, and sometimes it was a combination of two ideas. One example of technical problem that Isabelle's team addressed this way is a big issue with the one interfacing system, which nobody had seen before. That system was responsible for importing and sorting the incoming social contributions from the various client systems, except that the sorting part, the system was totally unable to do, and no one had seen this. So they came up with a new solution. They launched a little R&D project and came back with a new solution. There was a bit of a cost to this, but imagine the cost or the impact of finding this one problem later. The project was only delayed by 3 weeks instead of what could have been months, or probably caused the failure of the project altogether. Finally, the last question, and I'm getting close to the end of my presentation. I hope I'm not too late. Will we be ready in time? So this question, it should be the last we're concerned about. Not because it's not important, but because many teams tend to focus on this first, on the schedule, and forget about the first three critical questions. So this is why I want to keep it for last. So I've said that before, but companies spend an incredible amount of energy ensuring project management processes are followed by everyone. This is their way of ensuring projects are completed in time, in budget, and according to specifications. And yet, so many projects fail. According to the famous Standish Group study, more than 70% of projects across the world do not meet these requirements, and included in this are Agile projects. Over time, projects keep getting delayed, postponed, rescheduled, and the main reason for that are lack of coordination and collaboration across the organization. Every contributor spends their time doing the same task over and over because handovers between teams are not clean. Contributors are constantly slowed down by operational obstacles. The tool is not available, I didn't get my PC in time, this guy does not know his job, I'm waiting for somebody's response, I have too many things to do, I don't know which one is the priority, and you're stuck all the time. And 3, each contributor tends to pursue their own plan without global coherence. All this creates bottlenecks everywhere in the organization, which in the end reduces the performance of every team. So Obeya recommends building and following a macro plan, also called a concurrent plan, and again with all contributors. So this macro plan is really an operational tool. It's not a scheduling tool. It's not supposed to replace this. It's really a lead time control tool because it's used every week by the whole team to anticipate risks and to anticipate risk and basically address problems one at a time. So when they have problems, they use what is called the PDCA. Some of you have probably heard about this this technique for resolving problems. It's Plan, Do, Check, Act. It's a scientific problem-solving method used in lean engineering it's structured technique for eliminating recurring issues. And it is at the heart of the intensive collaboration skill that people will need to learn to use every day throughout the Obeya journey. My last example is, again, Isabel and her team. So let's see how she used the macro plan to keep her project under control. First, she spent 2 full days building the team's macro plan with all contributors. Again, I insist on all. The first version brought out a number of incoherences, conflicts, redundancies, and misses. The whole wall was covered with Post-its and red, a lot of red. So they attacked each red Post-it at a time. Each handover between the various contributors were screened one at a time in order to ensure that the best possible flow of information, documents, work between all these contributors throughout the project. So the team addressed each problem in turn, found many quick fixes, as a matter of fact, and other trickier issues that required maybe deeper thinking or validation from managers were added to the problem-solving board and addressed using Plan, Do, Check, Act over the following days. And then once a week, after this 2-day workshop, once a week, Isabel met in the Obeya room with the whole team, or at least the representative from each function. Together they replayed the project scenario using the macro plan in order to measure the feasibility of the plan and to identify risks and issues. So then again, each problem every week is tackled, well, prioritized, because when you have a million problems, you have to prioritize, and each one is tackled using PDCA in the Obeya room itself, on the spot, if possible, and if not, later on the field with the concerned teams. So in that sense, the role of the project leader is crucial because he or she is the one that will go to the various teams throughout the week to help them resolve their issues using PDCA. So he's somewhat of a hands-on coach. And thanks to this approach, Isabel managed to improve the way people worked with each other. For example, business analysts and the development center conceived together several new work standards in order to eliminate reworks between them, and they also improved quality of deliverables. Several validation steps in the process were canceled because they were deemed totally useless and took several weeks to perform. So a total waste. And as a result, Isabel, even though she had to deal with so many issues for 8 months, she met her deadline. She was successful, but what's even more interesting is that she managed to change the organization. She managed to make it more agile, much more agile than it was a few months before. Here's a photo of her Obeya, as you can see. It's posted everywhere. It's computers. There's no one here because you know, I took it on a day when no one was there, but it's the whole room, and it's definitely a workroom. Voila. So I'm done with my presentation, and before I'm going to get questions from you guys if you have any. I just would like to direct you to an article that I wrote a year ago called Lean Project Management Using Obeya, with 2 O's, but really I prefer to spell it with 1 O. It's on InfoQ, the InfoQ online journal. So voila. Thank you so much for listening, and I will take questions now if you have any.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sandrine. It was a very interesting and for me quite a new concept. We do have some questions in the chat, and I will start reading them.
Okay.
And I have 2 more, but I will wait for the others to post theirs first. So the first question is, from what I hear so far, the 4 major principles and questions you are talking about, shared vision, immersing customer environment, minimal solution, sorry, are the same as in using design thinking. If possible, could you please comment on the similarities and differences between the 2 approaches, Obeya and design thinking?
No, I'm not going to comment on this and get into this because actually it's another presentation. It would be another presentation, but what lean is, okay, I'm just going to say this. What lean is something extremely practical. Okay, there are some key elements, and they are working with people on resolving very pragmatic problems. So you have some tools that show you problems. You react. You go to the field. You identify what's going on. You work with them. You apply the PDCA and you try to improve the way people work. This is lean. So it's purely pragmatic. It's very fact-based. It's very operational. There's not much, that's the extent of the theory behind it. And if you want to have this conversation about design thinking, I'm sure we can. Whoever asks for it, I'll be happy to discuss this at a later time.
Okay.
It's interesting, but yes, I've had this question before, but it's too long. So if I were in a real conference, I would tell you to go and have coffee with me later on. But yeah.
Maybe we invite you for a second presentation.
on this? Okay, why not? I love design thinking. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the second question is, you recommend a physical space. Can this be done also virtually?
Mm-hmm. Yes, as a matter of fact, that's why one of the reasons, but because one of the reasons why I'm talking today is because I want to, I'm working actively on virtualizing, if I may say, Obeya. Some tools exist, okay? Tools exist, but these tools, what they do, and they do this very well, they basically help you communicate better, share information better, plans, specs, and you name it, and maybe even talk together because you have Skype and chat messages. So these are communication tools, and you need that when you're you're in an international context, or you're what you call it, when everybody's not in the same room. However, what those tools do not resolve is the PDCA aspect. How do you actually collaborate intensively with people when you have a problem, even a small problem, that you have to go to the field, understand what's going on, see how people work, all this, and so that you can develop mutual confidence and mutual trust within the organization, and the tools don't do. So what I usually recommend, and I've done this myself actually, I've developed Obeya systems in delocalized or international contexts. And what I do is, we do have all these tools. We have the plan. We try to put it in electronic format. But I don't want to impose a tool. So it's usually the privilege of the team to choose their tool. Some people have used Jira for crying out loud, and that's fine with me. Others who have money might spend it on Obeya, whatever. Trello, I've used a lot. But when it comes down to developing mutual trust with people, collaborating intensively on problem solving, often face-to-face is better. So it's important to not just focus on the tool, but make sure that you have the right rituals and you have the right, you travel. You see people, and there's face-to-face time in order to do this, because a tool will never replace that. I'm afraid I don't have a perfect answer, but I'm working on developing a tool that will be a product that will include this aspect of Obeya management into the work.
Okay, excellent. We'll be following what's happening there.
It's not that easy, trust me. Otherwise, it would have been done already.
Yeah. Okay, there is a question about the role of the product manager or product owner in this concept.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, depending on your organization, you're going to call people, you're going to have different types of roles. At Spotify, they have tribes. Okay, they have, depending on your own processes, your own organization, you're going to have product managers or project managers or both. If you're Agile, you're going to have also Scrum Masters, you name it. Okay, so everybody has a role. In this method, who is going to be leading the project is the one that will get his hands dirty, who will be carrying the responsibility of the product, will carry the vision of the product and take it all the way to the end, work with everybody to make sure that the collaboration really happens. So it could be a product manager. I've seen that before. It could be a project manager. It could be a team leader. It could be, you see what I'm saying? It could be a chief engineer, a technical lead. This person can come from different roles. And then after that, if it's a product manager, if it's a business analyst, maybe they'll have a more business knowledge. If it's a technical person, they have more technical knowledge. But no matter if it's product manager, then they will have more of a product way of seeing things. But no matter what, the person who is responsible for the Obeya project will have to get their hands dirty on all fronts. They will need to understand the business side of things. They will need to get their hands dirty in technique. They will be able to go look at a piece of code if there's some problems and they need to basically help people resolve it. That doesn't mean she or he needs to know everything. That means that they need to be able to coach the person in using PDCA on a specific problem, and it could be anything. So the role of the product manager depends on who takes the responsibility of the Obeya project. It doesn't matter if it's a product manager, a team leader, or a project manager. Does that answer the question or not?
Yeah, it's a question to the person who asked. So if you want to post a follow-up question, please do so. And in the meantime, I will take the chance to ask my question, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Nicola answered yes. The answer is okay.
Okay, good.
Great. So, okay, I actually noted down two very broad questions. The first one is, what are the challenges that you see to implementing Obeya? One of them, I guess, is the point on virtual teams or distributed teams that you mentioned. But what else have you seen as a challenge so far?
Oh, many. Distributed teams is one of them, but you know, the fact that teams are distributed it should be tackled like a problem in itself, in the lean sense of things. Every time, so I remember a project where the development center was in India, so you know we had to run due to collaborating was very difficult. So we attacked this using PDCA cycles, and we tried different things. And every time we measured to make sure that you know it worked or it didn't work. And eventually, after you know some time, we managed to find a good way of working with these people. So yeah, distributed teams is one problem, and only one problem. And you're going to find a million of them when you start. For instance, is how could I find a room? I know that a lot of people have this issue. I never said that you have to stop fighting. You still have to stop fighting, especially when you start and your company has never done that before. But what is important, and I don't know if you remember the first point, is getting the sponsors on board, because these guys will open the doors. And if you don't have the sponsors on board and the managers on board, then you're on your own. So so yeah, challenges: finding a room, getting you know, to make people contribute to something. If they don't feel like it, you still have to you still have to convince them one way or another. So it takes some knowing how to deal with people, obviously, and it takes some coaching skills. So that's why Isabel, for instance, well, Isabel decided to get help from a coach. for a couple months. But you know, you can try on your own, because lean is about trying. You try, you fail, you try, you fail, you try, it works partially, you keep trying until you learn something, and ideally you learn it together. So that's lean.
Mm.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You did. I was kind of trying to find out you know, the panacea to all the challenges that we have also with Agile when it comes to convincing people to participate and to really achieve the mindset. But I guess it's more or less the same thing, um, maybe a little bit improved by the physical environment, but still you are meeting the same challenges basically.
Oh,
Right.
the challenges are there, and the format is highly collaborative. Yes, and you have the tools and techniques to collaborate well in a structured manner. But I insist on the fact that it's the whole. You cannot start by putting your things on the wall. Start with the first question. Okay, start with the first question. Create your business case. Go see the sponsors. I understand why this project is important for the company. If you don't do this initial work well, then you'll find that you'll have a lot more challenges, a lot more problems. Isabel, she manages to do this because she got the go from the managers, and she got the support throughout the project. So it's critical that you do this. Do not skip this phase, and this is why I put it first.
Mm. Okay, so we have one more question, and I suggest it's the last one because we are already over time. So the question is, how do you handle the quantities of data that is the stickies that are posted on the wall? So the person says at one point you have to transfer them to some electronic tool, so then you have to keep both in sync. So how do you handle that?
Oh no, my God! Then we start getting into bureaucracy again.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. You know, if you find yourself, okay, clear enough. If everybody's in the same room, then there's no issue. If you have some people that are far, even a couple hours away, I've seen people like you know, who were only 3 bus stops away, but because they're not in the same building, you know, it was difficult to connect. So make a point. If you manage to get most of the contributors physically in the Obeya room, make it happen no matter what. Okay, that's a sure thing. Then some things might need to be put in electronic format because you have a real distributed team. So no need to repeat it. Don't put things on the wall. Put things on the tool. Make sure, be creative. Basically project the macro plan on the wall. Print it once a week. I don't know, but no, don't do this twice. Otherwise, you get back into bureaucracy, which we're trying to escape from. But like I said, I tackle every challenge with PDCA. You know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Great. So thank you very much. It's been really a very interesting talk and a very interesting discussion. And I believe if we continue, we could maybe eat up an hour more with questions and answers. But guys, you have Sandrine's data contacts here. So I guess, Sandrine, you would be okay if people could maybe follow up with some questions to you directly?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Feel free. My address is right there.
Okay. Thank you very much.